It's Friday. Come on in. Friday, May 1st. And being the spring, it's always time to go to the flea markets. And you never know what you're going to find when you go to the flea markets. You might find some weird stuff like Donald Duck straws or old TV guides or old Inquirer type magazines that said there's a new face on Mars and a big guy in the corner. Or you might find penthouse jigsaw puzzles. I wonder if all the pieces are there. But I'll tell you, I am not a morning person, and it's going to take something more than an Inquirer or a jigsaw puzzle from Penthouse to get me out of bed. But if it's Beatles memorabilia, I'll probably be getting up early. When I first moved to Atlanta in 1980, I was living in some little apartments that were right along Interstate 85, which is one of the main arteries into downtown Atlanta. And at the end of this access road where we lived, there was a huge two a double drive-in movie theater that on the weekends they used it as a flea market. Cars parked on one side. On one side there was three tiers of vendors selling everything. Well, actually there were at the top layer there were produce, farmers market type stuff, people selling fruits and vegetables. In the middle, it was the professional flea marketeers, if you know what I mean. It was the people that would sell belts and wallets and furniture or clothing and things like that, like a big dollar store out there. But at the bottom of the hill was where the mom and pop shops were, the people that had cleaned out their basements and attics and found goodies to come out and sell, like these Donald Duck straws and things like that. And of course, a lot of people, and especially in 1980, we were still pretty common to find Beatles memorabilia just in the flea market stall. Always finding things like magazines and scrapbooks and records and things like that. And I remember when I found this magazine, look with John on the cover like that. This one still has the posters inside with the full fold out as well. And the guy had these in a box for $1 a piece, and I went, all right. And he goes, that one is $20. And I learned very quickly to kind of hold the emotion or the fun of finding some of these things, or going through a stack of records and finding songs, pictures, and stories of the fabulous Fabs. And you look very closely, and it's got the little sticker sold at the concert in Jacksonville. So it may not have been in a great shape, but even finding one of these in any conditions a good thing to go home from the flea market with. Finding these little scrapbooks, things like this, were always my favorite things to find. Something like this. Now, I didn't put this one together like I did my other one that I showed you a while ago, but just finding someone's scrapbook where they were making little signs for the Beatles, doing drawings of them on the Ed Sullivan Show. Copied those right out of the cartoons, didn't they, Mitch? What else is in this one? Ed Sullivan Show shots. A whole folder of nothing but clippings in here. I just leave them as I find them pretty much. I could rearrange them a little bit, but these are the way that these were found. So I think these will just go in the collection like this. Or this one, picked up a photo album one day. I wondered if this is going to have any Beatles things in it. The first page I flip over to is Jimmy Nicole, and going through all these. And about by this time, when I start finding something like this, I ask the vendor, how much is this photo album here? And I believe they said something like, oh, look at the cartoons in here. Flintstones cartoon with the Fabs on the cover. Don't know what that number 9 from 12 Oaks Hotel Motel was, but maybe something deserved to be in the scrapbook. Movie newsreels, order blanks. Got a stack of the newsreels right over there. And probably about this time, I'm just going ahead and saying, I think I'd like to buy this one. And I notice a calendar in here that says the Beatles are coming to town, and probably a brother was not such a fan as he had to editorialize there a little bit about the hairy apes coming to town, huh? So maybe a family feud going on when this scrapbook was being made. They had a Vox warranty card in that little scrapbook. So I said, "How much for this scrapbook?" And I believe the fellow said about $10, and I quickly threw a 10 out and took that one home. Got that one in the collection for sure. Going through the scrapbook a little more detailed, once I got it home, I noticed there was an envelope with 2 Beatles stubs still in the envelope, absolutely mint condition, nice sharp corners, and even an order blank to order the tickets that hadn't been used. So I think probably a steal of that deal, taking that little scrapbook home. And you never know what you're going to find in a flea market like that. But that's not really the story for the day. At the top of that, like I say, was the fruits and vegetables, and I'd stopped at one store, one of those little stalls one day to buy some bananas or watermelon on the way home, and I had Beatles albums under my arm. And the little lady that was the vendor there, I was about 25 years old, and she, again, an older lady, maybe 35 or 40. She says, "I see you got the Beatles album there. I've got a book in French by John Lennon. Would you like to have that if I could find it?" And I don't think I'd ever even known that there was a book by John in French. And I said, "I sure would." And next week, I'm doing the flea market routine looking for these goodies again. And she calls me over and holds up this French book. John in flagrant délit. And it's his in his own right, but in French. Didn't have that at that time, and she says, "I've got other Beatles memorabilia too. I'll look for it and bring it to you if you'd like to buy it for me." She charged me about $10 for that book, and I thought that'll be a good collector's item for sure. So a week goes by. She maybe brings in another magazine, a couple of photos and things. She referred to once that she got something about the Beatles cartoons, and I thought, what has she got in the comics or the cartoons? So one day she calls me over, very excited to see me, it seemed like, and she says, I found it. Wondered what she was found. She hands me a brown paper bag that has the Beatles cartoon kit in it. And this was not just a regular comic book thing that I was looking for. It in fact had the entire, all of the pieces. You can make it almost like playing paper dolls with the Beatles, putting the parts together there. So it looks like John's legs are getting a little wanky there. Make your own cartoons of the Beatles, and this one still had the instruction booklet with it. Very, very scarce item. You don't find those very often. You certainly don't find them with the instruction booklet there. And I believe by then she was getting a feel for what her Beatles memorabilia was worth a little bit, because she said, "I believe I'd like to have $50 for this Beatles cartoon kit." And I remember saying, "No, I'm not going to give you $50 for that." And I took out 5 $20 bills, and I said, "I've got to give you at least $100 for that, because I think that is really, really going to be a special piece for my collection." So just a story of how kind of cultivating a relationship there at the flea market really helped me out with a unique piece, and I still do it. Just before the quarantine, we were just in a flea market right up the street here not too long ago. Asked the guy, "Got any Beatles goodies hidden away?" He says, "I think we've got a couple of Beatles cards around here." And I thought, yeah, what I need is a couple more Beatles trading cards, right? So he goes into a little drawer and pulls up these 2 Beatle cards. And these aren't just Beatle trading cards, bubblegum cards. They're the ones with the calendars on the back. So never hurts to ask. And sometimes you get a nice little surprise like that. And coming into flea market season again, I hope we're going to be able to get out and have some fun in the flea markets and maybe make some more finds like these. I think next time I'm going to talk to you on Tuesday about another encounter with Ringo Starr, a very, very famous artist, and bring my dad into the story too. So have a great weekend. Peace and love. Listen to the doctors. Science.